economic forecast. It's a rather special day, of course, in any case, but it's also the day when we've planned to provide this information about the European economy, which is still facing difficulties, but it is solid. We would sum up the forecast by talking about modest growth in challenging times. That's how we would sum up the prospects for the economy in Europe over the coming 2 years. Real GDP has finally exceeded the pre-crisis level. Did that last year. The European economy continued to grow moderately over the first 3 quarters of this year. GDP is set to increase at an annual rate, comparable rate for each year, 2016 through 2018, without any particular spikes or downturns. More specifically, growth for the Eurozone will be 1.7%, 2016, 1.5% in 2017, and then back up to 1.7%. That's a forecast for 2018, and the EU growth profile would be similar. Still moderate growth rate because there are some obstacles in the way of faster growth, weakness in global trade, downturn in factors which would favor faster growth, the lower price of oil, currency depreciation, and also the high level of uncertainty in Europe and beyond. In this complex context, I would identify 5 bits of good news for the European economy. First of all, the fact that GDP should increase. It's set to increase in all member states in 2017, driven mainly, and I come back to this, by private consumption. However, having said that, national economic performance will differ quite considerably from country to country. Second piece of good news, job creation is more robust than had been anticipated due to the rather weak growth in GDP. So the rate of growth in jobs is quite satisfactory, due mainly to recent structural reforms in a lot of countries. That has increased the amount of disposable household income, and unemployment rates are at their lowest since 2009, and they should go down from 10.1 in 2016 to 9.2% in 2018. That's a figure which is still high, of course, and further efforts are necessary. But still, that is good news. And a third piece of good news is that investment is finally starting to pick up. A certain number of the prerequisites for stronger investment growth are now in place. That, of course, would include lower financing costs, thanks to the exceptionally accommodating monetary policy over time, even though higher levels of uncertainty will perhaps at a certain point produce a certain counter effect to that. The fourth piece of good news is that inflation in the Eurozone should be set to increase. It was 0.3% in 2016. It should reach 1.4% in 2017 and the same level in 2018. That is a reflection of the diffusing of the oil price effects, which is the price is picking up again now, also due to an increase, gradual increase in underlying inflation, which in turn is due to an increase in wage levels and a slackening in production. So we feel that this is a sign of a return to a certain degree of normality. The final piece of good news has to do with public finances, which should continue to improve. Aggregate public deficit should go down to 1.5% of GDP in 2017-18, and the Eurozone GDP to debt ratio should further decrease during the forecast period. So the fiscal stance is generally neutral, and that should remain the case next year. Let me just go into some more detail on some of these points. In several member states, the signs of the recession remain, of course. Bad loans, still too many of those, public and private debt levels still too high. Then there's the process of corporate debt reduction still underway. On top of that, the lack of dynamism in terms of investment over recent years is weighing on potential growth, even though investment, as I said, is picking up now, whereas expectations for only moderate growth of the current period, that is also weighing on investment. As I've just said, and as you can see from the graph here, there are significant margins for improvement on the labour market, even if jobs are being created at a robust pace.